From the world of AV programming and control with James King, I'm Steve Greenblatt, and this is Ask the Programmer. James, how are you today? I'm glad we're here for what'll be a solo episode. Just you and I getting to talk about an interesting topic. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. I like the topic that we have on store today. It's something I can probably talk to all day, every day about. I'm looking forward to this one.
Excellent. And what James is referring to, and what we've kind of been teasing a bit, and really what has probably been the mission of Ask the Programmer, amongst other things, is to build community amongst programmers. And the question is one, how, but the other question is why. Why is this important, and what does it mean to build community, and what value, and is this something that um, is driven by some other party saying, hey, programmers come together, or is it organic where programmers say we need this? So James, you've had a lot of experience. One of the things that you really take a lot of pride in is the Slack group that you built for higher ed. And you also have a lot of involvement with HETMA. That's been a real success story. So tell me a little bit about your experience with this, because I'm going to let you share your insight. You probably have a little bit more of perspective to provide.
Sure. Before I dive into the Slack group and the HEPMA and all that stuff, I want to kind of start off with how I kind of went with I last year or 2 years ago. I was actually invited to do the keynote at a MCUAV summit in Minnesota.
I remember that.
And my keynote was on building community. And the person who introduced me actually gave me a great tidbit when he introduced me that I kind of went off like I used during my presentation because I didn't know about it, but it was very interesting tidbit was Paul Revere. Everyone talked about how, when he did his ride, the British are coming, the British is coming. How did he let everybody know quickly and all that stuff? Well, Paul Revere was a member of 7 different guilds. He didn't have to tell everyone. He only had to tell his guilds, who then spread it out. So he was working, he wasn't just like, oh, I'm going to go with this one group, and that's my group, and that's my people, and I'm not going to branch out or talk to anyone else. But because he was in so many different groups, he was able to spread that message quicker and more efficiently. So that goes with our whole notion of building community. I mean, we're human. We want social connection. But we also, again, we are humans and we all have different jobs. We all have different things of what we're looking for and all that stuff. So, for example, when I built my Slack group that you mentioned, was I say this very frankly, is I did it for a selfish reason. And it turned into a good thing. But the reason was yes, I was on Twitter. I was connected to a whole bunch of pro AV folks, not just higher ed, but some higher ed, some out there in manufacturers and salespeople and integrators and all that stuff. Well, at work, I was giving a piece of gear that I had no input with in the beginning, but they're like, this is what we're using. It doesn't work correctly. Figure it out. Well, I didn't know. Like, I never worked with the gear. I didn't inspect it or any of that stuff. And I know, and we were having a problem with it. And I know if I put it out on Twitter saying, hey, I'm having a problem with this device, I was going to get a lot of salespeople who go, hey, that's junk. Buy our product. I was already stuck in this. Like, this is what we had. This is what we had to do. Did I agree with it? That's a whole nother story I won't go into. So I took the small group of higher ed folks I had. I reached out to them. I'm like, hey, I'm going to start this Slack group. So I created the Slack group, invited them to it, and I posed my thing to them. It was a small handful, maybe 15, 20 people or so. And they all gave their feedback, honest, true, unfiltered, bias. Well, there's always bias, but they could speak frankly because it was just us higher ed folks. And then they start to invite other higher ed folks. And they started to invite other higher ed folks. And it really bloomed. And I think currently we're sitting at about 300 global members, because we actually have a member from Australia. We have a member from Ireland in there. So we have global members in there. Not as large as HETMA, but that's a different reason why. Like my Slack group is it's closed, meaning you have to be in higher ed AV IT. If you're not part of the group. And I've had members who were in higher ed who branched out and they left their higher ed and they went work for an integrator company, or they went and worked for a manufacturer, whatever they did, but they left higher ed. These are great people. I had great connection with them. They got booted from the Slack group. I'm still connected with them, but they got pulled out because it keeps that trust there, that the members know they can speak frankly and not worry about being, targeted by a manufacturer that they might, have a relationship with, and then they don't want to burn that bridge if they're having a problem. And we really do speak frankly. Like we've had great conversations about manufacturers, about products, about things that are just going on, and we all help each other because we all have that common mission of we're here to support the students the best of our abilities, and we help each other out. I mean, there's been times I am sure there's other members on the group who can chop to their times, but there's been time where I had a ticket come in and the person's like, oh, we had a buzz in Zoom. Like, great. How am I going to troubleshoot a buzz in Zoom? Because you don't hear in the room, you only hear on the far end in Zoom. And so I put it out to the Slack group. I'm like, hey, can anyone jump on a Zoom call with me? I have 5 members jump on and we troubleshoot the buzz. We worked together, we figured it out, got it all nice and clean. Yeah, I could have sat there and, record it, heard the book, and then try to fix it. But it was great to do that on the fly, live, to see what was going on. Definitely helpful that way. Now, HETMA, like I said, HETMA is a little different. HETMA is the voice for higher ed folks in the industry. So we are built by us for us. And so they do reach out to a larger audience, because, and I had this conversation just this morning with somebody else. I'm in a privileged location. I'm at UNLV. Yeah, I'm the med school, but I'm at UNLV. If I wanted to see a product, I can call up the manufacturer and say, hey, let's set up a demo. My school is that privileged location. These small junior colleges or universities are in the Midwest who, the manufacturers might be 8, 9, 10 hours away from. They're not seeing them daily. They're not able to pick up that phone and say, hey, stop by, let's have a conversation, a lunch and learn, or that stuff. They're kind of out there solely. So that's where HEPMA comes in, and they're being the voice for these schools. So again, HEPMA started with the why. Why are we doing this? We need to get these voices out there, and help these schools and help our students. Because again, we always say all our schools have the same problems. We just have more zeros behind them. That's really it. It really comes down to we're educating our students. We're not competitors. Yes, our schools might be competitors, but us tech folks, our tech managers, we're not competitors. We're there to work with each other. And that's why, like, where I go back to that whole thing I opened up about Paul Revere is I am a member of the Slack group. Yeah, I created it, but I'm a member of it. I'm a member of HEPMA. I'm a member of ETC, which is another great organization out there. There's, you know, even Steve, you and I started this podcast and we created that LinkedIn group. I'm a member of that. I am a member of other programming groups on Facebook and LinkedIn, and even just others ones out there, non AV, non higher ed. I'm part of some groups out there. I'm a part of many different groups because each brings value. And again, you can have that talk. Like HEPMA We have a voice with the manufacturers and integrators. We have a big group behind us. We can actually have those conversations. So there are times where a university is going to want to say, "Hey, I want to talk to company X," and they can do that very easily right through the HEPMA community that we have built. They can have those conversations. They don't need to fly out. They don't need to, try hunt down a phone number of who to talk to. It's all right there. Or they can join the private end of HEPMA or even my Slack group and have those more like, "Hey, I'm really having a problem with this one manufacturer," and have those frank discussion and know that they're going to be supported, that they're not going to be sold to, they're going to be talked to, and they're going to be provided good guidelines. I know I helped out one of our members one time where they put out, they're like, "Hey, I had this unique project and I need this, product for it." And we're like, I jumped on a call with this person. We talked about her project, and I'm like, you know what? This product from this manufacturer would be perfect for you, this project. I was like, I've used it. I know it would be perfect. Her response was, "We don't have a great relationship with that company. Their rep won't talk to me." And I found that very shocking because I had a great relationship with the rep on my end. And this was when I was back at my old school. I don't have it here now. So I was like, hold on. Let me put you in contact with my rep. Maybe he's not your rep, but he can at least help you and he's still repping the company. And they actually got their product, they got the project done to satisfaction. Just because, yeah, they had a bad experience with their rep. Now, as he put it out in the ether, like, that burned bridges, but now at least the company still, got the money. I'm assuming they bought it. I really don't know where it went from. I just know they got the project done. Or like this tech can be like, "I'm never buying that company product ever again because I have a bad experience with this one rep." We all know reps move companies. Sometimes it happens. You get some good ones, you get some bad ones. I've had a bad rep. I had like one of the companies I use now heavily, I wouldn't look at when I was back east because I had a bad experience with the rep. I knew everyone else was having great experience, so I was more willing to, give them a chance even when I came out here and we're using them. But like back east, I wouldn't use them at all because I knew our rep and I had a bad relationship with them and wasn't getting the service I needed from my students where I was getting it from other companies. So again, having that community, like if I didn't have that community, I would have when I took out this job, I would have been like, "Nope, we're not using this company. We're going to switch over." Speaking of that, if it wasn't because of the community I built, I wouldn't even know about the job I'm in currently. Because one of our members posted it in the group say, "Hey, this job is open here at UNLV." And I looked at it, I'm like, hmm, I've never funny enough, I've always said I wanted it at New Jersey, but I wanted to go where it was cold and not a city. Well, Vegas is hot and a city. So complete opposite. Only reason why I was willing to even look at it, one, yes, it was out of New Jersey. It was a good job. It's what I was career-wise I was looking for. But I had a relationship with the person from main campus, and I knew what they were doing. I knew they were doing some amazing stuff. I'm like, "Hey, I can be part of that team. That sounds awesome." So building your community is great, especially when you don't have influences from other people. Sorry, I talk a lot, Steve. So
No,
now your
that
turn.
was, I mean, you framed it up amazingly well. And well, if I could summarize that, and because I learned some things, and I would like to just point out, I think some of my takeaways is that one, your community provides you a support system.
Yep.
Another, your community provides you a sounding board. A outlet for another is an outlet for resources and assistance and help. Um, and then what I think is also important for programmers, and I've always looked at a parallel, funny enough, between HETMA and programmers, if you will, or from my perspective, and I could talk a little bit about it as independent programmers, is that we've kind of had this group that didn't fit. It just did. It would. There wasn't a place on the AV map for independent programmers, and I think until HETMA came along, there wasn't really a place on the map for higher ed in-house integrator technology managers. That it's a niche um, market. It's a niche group of people that have very specific needs and very specific um, goals, and they're different from other parts of the industry. I for many years I looked at councils, and this is going back to Avixa, and before that Infocom they called it, and so forth, where they had councils, and basically the councils represented the different defined roles in the industry, and that's what I look to find my people way back when. And I still, those relationships have served me for many years, but um, I think that there's still value in breaking down that wall and looking at all programmers, because I think programmers come in all different shapes, sizes, flavors, similar to um, higher ed technology managers. They and there's overlap there too, as you know, and we wouldn't have this podcast if there wasn't. And I think that there's a need to shed light on the fact that this group exists, that they serve the industry in a specific way, that they have a voice. The voice needs to be heard and amplified, and that there needs to be more attention paid to this important part of the industry, that without programmers, this industry wouldn't operate the way it does now, and probably would have a lot of voids or vulnerability, if that makes sense, to get projects done.
Oh, it makes a lot of sense. So it kind of leads me to like first start with the question of, so why isn't there a good community for programs? And this is a question I have asked myself numerous times, even before we started this podcast, Steve. And I think really there's a couple of reasons, but I think one of the main reasons is what I kind of hinted on with us higher ed community is, as I mentioned, the higher ed ones is our schools might be competitors. Us tech managers are not competitors. The problem is with programmers, they don't see it that way, or they may not feel it that way, where they might say, hey, I'm working for company X and Steve's working for company Y. We're competitors. I can't help him. He's going to get that job. I'm not going to get that job. But you know what? We really, us programmers are not competitors. Yes, our companies might be competitors, but you know what? We need to help each other out, because it's not our jobs to make the sales. That's the business to make the sales. Our jobs is the program. I mean, if I can get some help from Steve to help me get my job done, that's great. Instead of me trying to bang my head against a wall, try to figure out something and being stuck, reach out to your network, build your network, and get that help that you need is amazing. It takes the load off. So I think that's one of the reasons they don't see themselves as that. They see themselves as competitors. But another thing is like I know there's been a lot of groups that started for programmers and other things, not just AV. Like I've seen other groups that was part of. And I think a lot of times when the groups don't last is there's a couple of reasons. One, they lose the track of the why they started. And yes, I keep hitting that, hinting on that is, and I'm currently reading the book Start with Why. So, but it's very important. If you don't have that why, members are not driven. They're not unified for that drive that brings us together. And so, starting with that why are we all getting together and move from there? I'm a big component for why. I've always started the why. Like in fact, when I gave my presentation at Infocom last year, my intro was we first started was why am I up here talking to you? because I know when I'm in the audience, I always want to know, why are you up on stage talking to me? Give me the reason why you're up there. Then I'm going to listen to you. I'm going to follow you if I agree with that reason. So I explained, like, yeah, we were talking about, designing classrooms and new builds and stuff. I was like, I'm up on this stage because I've been part of 11 brand new builds. That shows where I get my experience from and why I'm talking to you. I may not be the best one to talk to you, but at least you have some ideas. Like, he's not just some Joe Smo they found on the street and threw up on stage. He had some experience. Now you buy that experience, that's up to you. But yeah, starting with the why is the group's forming. They had my form it because they want to be a voice for tech managers in this industry. That's their why. That's what drives the members of HETMA. And that's why HETMA, I feel, is taking off as it has, because we're staying true to the why the organization was formed. So if we can say that way, a lot of times these groups get together, it's like, oh, we need a programming group. And let's throw it up on the wall, and see what's stick. Well, there's no why. Why are we getting together? Why do we need a programming group? And if you don't have that why, you're not going to bring people together.
First of all, great book. I read that book and I highly recommend it. So anybody who wants to read Simon Sinek's Start with Why, I very much recommend it. And a lot of good food for thought there. And it's actually a challenge to define your personal why. So I would put that out there. I've done exercises on that before, and it's not the easiest thing in the world. Um, but to your point, there needs to be a purpose, and there needs to be um, something that is a problem to be solved, a need to be addressed, a pain point to be soothed. And I think that from what I've seen in the past, and it's not something that um, I'm going to knock, but a lot of programmers have been disciples of manufacturers or particular brands, and I think that there needs to be more to a programmer's identity than the brand that they have worked with or that they or that has put them on the map. And I think that if we are going to stand on our feet as a strong entity in the industry and also a strong part of the landscape, and not be threatened about having opportunities in the future, we need to be looking, I think, wider rather than more narrow, and say that, well, what do programmers do for this industry, and what are the things that they need to do to remain relevant? And if the brand or the the product line that you're an expert in were not to exist, I'm not saying that any of them are going that is going to happen, but what would that mean to you? And I would put that challenge out for programmers to think about. But to your point, and bringing this back around, and perhaps we'll continue this conversation in a future episode, because I think it has a lot of meat to it. Is the idea that programmers should have a place to go to be able to have conversations that are safe, as you mentioned, and or people are going to get them, and they're going to be able to share some of the same experiences and also be able to provide insight to others. And I do agree that there needs to be it needs to be thought of as non-competitive, and it needs to be um, open-minded and collaborative in order for it to work. And so I hope that there are more people out there who share in this, and that's one of the reasons why we have been saying this for the 3+ years that we've done this podcast, and also are trying to provide a home. Right now, it's a LinkedIn group, and we've talked about that in recent episodes. We'd like to hear from the audience about what they would look to get out of it and what they feel would be important to them.
Oh, 100%. I like your whole statement there, also the personal why, because that's something I've been working on myself. But yeah, no, I think we need that community. We're not competitors. We're here to help each other. And I think that's a great way to kind of end this and think about what you said, Steve, is step back. If you can no longer write code for what you are currently writing code for, what are you going to do? Can you move to another company? Can you move to another integrated company or another manufacturer? Like, if you can't answer that quickly and honestly, maybe you're sticking yourself in a box into a corner, and that's where you really need to build your community. So things happen, businesses go out, like we can all help each other. So and then also we all get stuck. I mean, we don't know it all, but you know what? 5 minds are better than 1, 100 minds are better than 5. Like, let's build the community, get out there and, build that brain trust as we always say in my Slack group, but people will put out there and go, "Hey, brain trust, can you help me with this problem I'm having?" And we all come together and help each other.
That's a great challenge, a great way to wrap this one. And I agree. And I'd like to hear from those out there listening. We always ask for you to reach out to us. Now's a great time to, and now's also a great time to join our LinkedIn group and invite others. Please do. If everybody who is listening will join and then invite 2 or 3 people that they know that are similar, we can have a really good critical mass for brain trust, as James says. And I think that we'll find that good things happen. And we've been populating the group with some questions and ideas. And I think that let's see where this takes us. So James, until next time, how can people get in touch with you, continue this conversation, and also learn more about if they are to qualify the higher ed Slack group as well as other things?
So to qualify for the higher ed Slack group, you have to be working for a university or school. So basically, you have to have like an EDU address, or if you're overseas, what those codes are, because each country has their kind of own code for schools. So you have to have one of those address, and all you have to do is reach out to me, or you can actually reach out to another member. Um, of the group who can send it to me. We can definitely get you in. So there's DM me, send me some information, and I'll verify that you are indeed working in higher ed, and I'll get you in there. Um, if you're trying to get hold of me, I'm on Twitter, X, whatever we're calling it these days, as AV_James King. I'm on LinkedIn. Um, Anything with HEPMA. Now, HEPMA is easier to get into than my Slack group. HEPMA is fully open. Anybody can join. You just go to the community, hepma.org. There's a option there to sign up. And then if our membership chair verifies that you're higher ed, you will get added to the higher ed closed group as well. But then you also have access to the open side as well. So definitely take advantage of there. I'm on there as well. So that's another way to get a hold of me.
Excellent. Please do that. Take action. Make that a goal, and also reach out to let's see if we can emulate what James has done in higher ed and make next over the next few months make the programmer community be something that is coveted, and we have to actually verify membership. So um, for me, you can reach me at Steve Greenblatt on social media. As I've mentioned recently, the Ask the Programmer podcast is supported by my company, Control Concepts. And a little bit about us is that we help programmers by creating those building blocks that are needed to either integrate devices or provide utilities. Many of them are free to download. So visit controlconcepts.net for more of that. And if you'd like to, if your organization would like to support this podcast, please reach out to us. We'd like to have you on, and we'd like to be able to mention you and promote your company as well. And until next time, this has been Ask the Programmer.